In the early 1980s, Great Britain was ruled by women. Queen Elizabeth II was a royal figurehead. Real political power was held by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, a member of the Conservative Party. Thatcher had been elected in 1979 and proceeded to put her own stamp on British life. She held office until late 1990, when she received a vote of no confidence and was replaced by fellow Conservative John Major. Thatcher had been the longest serving Prime Minister in Great Britain since the 19th century. To improve the British economy, Thatcher dismantled the socialist practices that were put in place in the post World War II era. She privatized major industries like coal mining and telecommunications, which had been run by the British government, and she cut down on the power of trade unions. Because Thatcher's revolution benefited the middle and upper classes and seemed to hurt the working and lower classes, she was very unpopular among the latter groups. Unemployment continued to rise, and by 1982, over 3.25 million people were unemployed. With cuts in both welfare and other social programs, such people's lives were becoming much harder. Though the economy was strong and interest rates and inflation were down, real living standards had been falling slightly for several years. In the 1980s, Thatcher was a symbol of powerful women in England. There was a concrete change in the position of working women in Great Britain in the early 1980s. Those who did marry gave up working after having a child. Most women who worked were employed in service and industrial occupations. The number of professional women was still small, but more women were becoming lawyers than ever before. These professional women often had equal pay for equal work, but working class women did not. Despite the success of Thatcher, many British women were anti conservative, though they did not necessarily support Labour either. To these women, Thatcher may have shared their gender, but her political prominence did not necessarily make her their heroine. Patient Griselda is a fictional character appearing in The Clerk's Tale. Griselda was a peasant girl who was asked to marry a local prince, but only if she would obey him without question. She agreed and bore him 2 children who were taken away from her while they were still infants. She did not question the decision. Her husband sent Griselda back home with nothing more than a slip to wear. She went without question. She sent for her. He sent for her to help him plan his second marriage to a young girl. Griselda came back. At a pre-wedding feast, she revealed that the girl and a page were her children, and all these incidents were tests of her loyalty. Lady Nijo is a 13th century Japanese courtesan to the Emperor of Japan, whose historical basis is the autobiography Confessions of Lady Nijo. She later became a Buddhist monk. Like Isabella, Nijo is self-absorbed. Nijo tells the others about her life, including information about her father, her lovers, her 4 children, only one of whom she ever saw, symbolic clothing, and her time as a traveling monk. But she also listens respectfully to the stories of others and acknowledges her limitations. Nijo liked her silk clothing and easy life with the emperor. Pope Joan is a woman from the 9th century who allegedly served as the Pope from 854 to 856. Pope Joan is somewhat aloof, making relevant, intelligent declarations throughout the conversation. When the topic turns to religion, she cannot help but point out heresies, herself included, though she does not attempt to convert the others to her religion. She began dressing as a boy at age 12 so she could continue to study. She lived the rest of her life as a man. Though she had male lovers, Joan was eventually elected Pope. She became pregnant by her Chamberlain lover and delivered her baby during a papal procession. For this, Joan was stoned to death. Dulcret is the subject of a painting by Bruegel entitled Dulgrete. In the painting, she wears an apron and armor and leads a group of women into hell to fight with devils. Gret is generally quiet through most of the dinner, answering questions only when directly asked and making a few comments on the side. Near the end of the scene, Gret makes a speech about her trip to hell and the fight with the devils. Isabella Bird is a Scottish woman who lived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries and who travelled extensively later in life. In Top Girls, Isabella is the first to arrive at the party and dominates the conversation in a self absorbed manner. She talks on and on about her travels, her complex relationship with her sister Henny, her clergyman father and husband, her illnesses, religion, and her lack of children. While Isabella does listen and respond to the others, she mostly tries to figure out her own life and what it meant. She could never be as good as her sister, but her adventures made her happy.